recruiting monsters.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
All right, we got 5 or 10 minutes to not ignore the other sport, which could be easier. We traded.
Yeah.
the Michigan football thing in basketball, they just can't. I can't level out. Right?
Yeah, they just cannot be on the same level. It's
the craziest thing, dude.
It's the way life is. It's the order of the world.
Yeah, some voodoo thing or something, right? So, the Hunter Dickinson saga is over. He's at Kansas. The made up Caleb Love saga, I don't know what to call that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you and I have had to fend off that rumor. He went online and kind of shut that down on his own.
Yeah, that's good. Glad he did that.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm like, I don't know. Is this the same thing? Like, what do you guys, where does this keep coming from? So anyway, there's 2 roster spots open. There's a void of information at this point. I think there's one guy we can kind of talk about and maybe what we think's happening there. But no information doesn't necessarily mean nothing's happening, but there is kind of a vibe of like, what is Michigan going to do? What is basketball going to do?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the one guy we're talking about, Tennessee Olivier, right? What do you think's going on there? Is this just, I'm going to follow the NBA trail until it ends and then maybe I'll come back to Michigan? Or it doesn't really feel like he wants to do college at all.
No, from my understanding, I mean, we were pretty gung-ho probably about a month ago that he was going to be transferring to Michigan. We were told that he was going to be transferring to Michigan. It was a done deal, basically. But things kind of changed when, his professional desires started to pick up steam a little bit. I think a win for Michigan was him not necessarily getting a offer to the NBA combine not an offer, an invite. He still has a chance, but he really has to blow it out of the water with the G League combine to earn an invite. So, I think it's coming down to it's pro versus Michigan. There's no one else that I foresee getting in there to make him avoid coming to Ann Arbor if he decides to do that. But from my understanding is he just kind of doesn't really want to do the whole college thing anymore, which I understand. I mean, he's like a 5th-year guy. It's like, if you're not a college,
does that mean he's not does that mean he's not the answer? Like, you don't turn away a talent like that when your roster is being turned over in this way.
Right.
But I think if you bring in somebody that doesn't want to be there, you might be just bringing in the same locker room issues you were having last year. Right. But I mean, you need the guy too, potentially, right? Yeah. From a talent standpoint. So I don't know.
It's tough, but at the same time too, it's only a 1-year holdover. He's not a multi-year guy. He has 1 year left. So, I mean, I don't think it's a situation where he just begrudgingly shows up to Ann Arbor and says, "Well, I guess fine, I'll play basketball." But no, I think it's something that
like that too.
Yeah, no, I think I think it's something where he legitimately wants to be in Ann Arbor. But I think his first desire wants to play professionally. I mean, he was born in Finland, so he wants to play in front of family, whether it's overseas or here in the United States professionally. So, I mean, either way, there's got to be some clarity on this situation soon. There has to be by default, but Michigan's got 2 roster spots open. I don't necessarily think they should be in a rush to fill them. But, and this is not to suggest that Michigan is just idly sitting by and watching everyone else do their portal business. I mean, I do think they're actively working the portal and actively working, the 2024 class and beyond. But, it's just, I think Juwan really works in silence, and there's really, when he gets a hold of something or when he does something, he doesn't really tell anyone what he's doing. For media purposes, but also he's just locked in on someone. So the lack of news in regards to the portal makes sense. But again, I don't think they're necessarily in a rush to fill those 2 spots, but I think they should fill them relatively soon. When is soon? I don't know, but we're kind of in this flux purgatory of, what they're going to do with these two spots with really only one strong name being apparent right now. There's really no one else with that. There's really no two names that have come out as strong possibilities. So we'll see. And, Michigan hasn't even formally announced their 3 transfers that they have so far. So, so it's yeah.
Oh God, they haven't, have they?
No, they haven't. And that's not to create some false yeah. I'm not trying to create some
coming across the wire.
Yeah, it's just they haven't announced them yet. But
I'm this weird mix of I feel like I'm more optimistic than most in terms of I actually, especially modern college basketball, a backcourt of Doug and Caleb Love excites me a lot. I think Terrace Reed could be a good fit with that kind of backcourt.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's guys like, oh, they could take a jump, blah, 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 whatever. But then part of me is just like, man, I don't know. and then, I don't like doing hot seat talk. But like you were saying, Olivia could be a 1-year holdover or whatever. Like Howard, I don't know what he has to do. I think it might be something we have to see. I don't think it's as simple as a result on paper.
Right.
We said that with Harbaugh going into 21. I don't think anybody said he had to beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten. It was like we wanted to see, because the issue was what the product was on the field, not just that they were losing, but how they were losing.
Yep.
We said that how many times last year? You're so close to winning these games. It's how you're losing them and the mood around the team. So if you can come out and we see that improve, just the morale and the flow of the court, et cetera, whatever,
yep,
we're going to feel okay. And then, of course, Harbaugh beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten. It's like, oh, yay. Right? So it's not like Howard has to do blank. I don't think that's the case at all. If he can build this group by bringing these guys in or whatever, and the team looks different.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I know that's not a tangible thing, but whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think my biggest question might be the backup 5, I guess, at this point, if they don't bring somebody else in. But
yeah, well, I mean, the thing is too, when you look at the portal, I think there's like a couple more weeks left in the portal, and there's new names going in every day. So,
Right.
Maybe there's a guy that we haven't even thought about, or we're not talking about, that either enters the portal or just pops out of nowhere that comes up. I still think, that which that allows Michigan to be a little bit more patient instead of just jumping to find a guy to fill a hole. So yeah, I really think the biggest holes are at the 4 and the 5 for Michigan right now. And I think probably the 5 more so than the 4.
That's where I critique him.
Yeah.
Because how many 4s are on this roster?
Yep.
Why is that a problem, right? That's
Yep. I mean, it's and it's like the point guard argument too. It's yeah. I mean, that's a totally different conversation for another day. But I still think there's time for the basketball program to round out this roster. And I don't think they're forced to do anything. But as long as they're working within the portal when the portal is operating, and they're not in a June or July scramble, I think it's okay. And they still have a chance to get some really good players. I mean, it's not like they're at a point now where they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. As I said, there's guys joining every day, and that who could realistically help Michigan. So, I mean, who those guys are, your guess is as good as mine. But
I do want to say to Howard's credit, what happens, and this used to be, Harbaugh talks way more than he ever used to, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know we're going to be in the submarine come fall camp, whatever. But like when you move in that silence, right, we understand in the job that we are in, there's a void and people want information. And sometimes people fill that void with anything. Might not be credible, might be complete speculation, whatever. But information has to fill the void because that's what people want.
Yeah.
And then that information doesn't happen. And then Howard gets bashed for not getting the recruit he was never going after, right? Because that kind of stuff is out there. Meanwhile, Caleb Love commits to Michigan. Everyone's like, oh, okay, Juwan, right?
Yeah, right.
If they Burnett, right? It's like, oh, okay. Now that one, obviously they'd recruit him. That made a little bit of sense or whatever. But I think sometimes we either hold somebody to account to information that filled the void that maybe wasn't credible, or we assume no information. Like you and I have to post on the board sometimes, like, guys, just because you don't hear what he's doing, he's not doing nothing.
Yeah, right.
Like you don't know more than what the staff does. He's doing something, right? So we'll see. Like I said, I go back and forth where I'm like, I could see them winning 20 plus games next year if things click right. And then I'm like, oh, this could be a complete meltdown.
Yeah. It's just, and you can go back to last season too, as they weren't that far away. Like
that's the worst part about it.
Yeah, like there were a couple of possessions away from having a decent record and being near the top of the Big Ten. But you know what? Those are what ifs. But at the same time, it's like this team wasn't a bad team. It's just it had its issues for whatever reason and whatever happened. I don't know, but I just don't think Michigan was a bad team, and I didn't think Michigan was in a bad way coming out of the season before Jet Howard and Kobe Buffkin left. I mean, Kobe leaving was not in the cards, and good for him because that means that he killed it and earned that right to leave. But yeah, now when you have a couple of departures, and obviously Hunter leaving too, now you're in a position where you're like, well, this is kind of teetering a little bit. You got to get it. You got to get the weight on the right side. So, yeah, this is a pretty important offseason for Juwan to get right for sure.